Okay, beautiful. So let's get started in child's pose or whatever variation of a pose works for you and feels best for you. So um, I'm going to come into child's pose, and you can do that one with your knees really wide apart. Lately, I've been doing it with my knees a bit closer together because it stretches out the lower back a little bit more, which can be a good thing. Sometimes it's a bit too much. It just kind of depends on your body and what you have going on. So you can kind of lean into what feels right today, which is so much of really what this practice is just getting to know what feels right for you, what you need that day. And probably the hardest part of that practice is just like letting go of your expectations around that. So you really get to show up in the present moment with what's happening with your body right now. So with your knees as wide as you want them, you are invited today, if you'd like, to bring the palms together and then bend the elbows so that the thumbs come to the back of the neck or the upper back. And just start to tap into your breath. So that might look like a few sighs. Maybe it's just noticing what your breath is doing right now. Checking in with how you're feeling, what's happening in your body, and how the energy is moving through you today. And then actually today, let's take a little Anahatasana before we go further. So you can come up to your knees, and I'm just going to walk my elbows forward, and you could even keep the palms together, or you could have the palms down or holding a block. And then just widen the knees slightly and draw your heart back towards your thighs. So you're getting a little bit of a melting heart kind of a feeling here. And if you haven't, you can start to invite your Ujjayi pranayam. So in and out through the nose, just expansive inhale, a little bit of a connection to the core on the exhale. And you can stay there as long as you like. We're going to kind of slowly transition toward downward dog. So again, staying in stillness is perfect. You can also come up through cat and cow and its variation. So I'm on hands and knees here, inhaling into a little back bend and exhaling to curl under. And you're invited to have your eyes closed throughout this. So again, the intention is really not about doing a certain pose or a certain sequence. Those are sort of tools to help us to get present, get into our bodies, breathe. So focus on how the breath and the movement are interacting with each other and just what it feels like for you to be here today. You can add on circles or side to side motion, just whatever feels good for you. Some of you might already be up in downward dog. That might be where you're ready to be right now. We'll meet there eventually. So when you get there, you'd have your hands just a bit farther forward than hands and knees. Finger spread, personally, I like my first finger pointing straight forward. Some people like middle finger pointing straight forward. You want to be in that place where you feel like your wrist creases are straight across. And then lifting your bum up and soft bend to the elbows, hugging them together. Maybe you're pedaling your heels out. So I'm just bending one knee at a time, letting the hips move a bit. You can absolutely have your eyes closed. And again, you're sort of looking for what feels good and just leaning into that. And then when you're ready, we will walk the feet up to the hands and come into a standing forward bend. That could be with your hands on the ground, or you could dangle holding opposite elbows, or rest your elbows on your bent knees. And wherever you are, you just don't want to have your knees locked. You could be swaying from side to side a little bit here, bending one knee at a time, or just being still. Okay, and then when you feel ready, we can curl up. So take your time to roll one vertebrae at a time, or you could keep your back really neutral and come up if that feels better. So do engage your core, knees nice and bent as you rise up. And I've just popped the playlist into the chat, so if you want to play some music at this point, you're welcome to do that. You know, some people like to, some people don't. And then you're just gonna find your feet at the top of your mat. Spread the toes, connect them to the earth, and just take a couple of breaths to feel. So we're gonna get into our Surya Namaskar, which many of you know quite well at this point. And I'd really love for you to find a rhythm in your sun salutation that you can do with your breath. So you might be going faster or slower than me, and that's just fine, especially once you get to know the sequence. But really, again, just keep in mind that the thing we're doing is moving with our breath. It's not so much about the poses, okay? So let's inhale. Exhale all the way out, and we'll begin. So inhale, reaching your arms up to the sky. Exhale and dive forward, bending the knees generously. Halfway lift, draw your heart forward. And then step your right foot back and lower your knee down. Heart and hands rise, inhaling, hips press forward. And then downward facing dog. As you exhale, connect the palms and step back. Come forward into plank. That could be on your knees. And you can do your cat and cow here, or you can lower all the way down to your belly, or just halfway down. Point your toes, roll your shoulders back, and it's just a little cobra to start. I usually like here, and then back to downward facing dog. Catch and inhale. The right leg is going to go up towards the sky as high as you want, and then step that foot through into low lunge, and this could absolutely be high lunge or even warrior one if you prefer. Lifting the heart up on your inhale, and then as you exhale to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, lengthening, and exhale to melt. Bend your knees, look forward, rise all the way up. And then we're going to dive to the earth again, exhaling. Halfway lift, draw your heart forward, and then your left foot will step back. Heart and hands rise into your lunge. And then downward facing dog, connecting the palms, step back. Again, forward to plank pose, or this could be cat and cow for sure. Lowering all the way down, or maybe it's a little push up. And then you could pull through into cobra, or here's upward facing dog, kneecaps lifted, shoulders down, and then downward dog from there. Catch your inhale, left leg is going to go up towards the sky. And then step the foot through. Heart and hands rise, inhaling through your lunge. And then forward fold to the top of your mat. Lengthen and fold. Bend the knees, rise all the way up. And then bring the hands together in front of your heart. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys a little secret. This is the internal structure of the sun salutation so that you have it and you can really start to tune me out as we're doing the sun salutations and genuinely listen to your breath. So here's the internal structure, okay? It's right foot back, step back. Right foot forward, step forward. That's one half. Then it's left foot back, step back, and then it's left foot forward, forward. That's the whole thing. It's like a little waltz, but you want to think right side. The foot you stepped back with, that's the one you're going to come forward with. And then you do it on the left side. So the foot you step back with, that's the foot that steps forward. You guys know this already. Does that make sense? Yes, thumbs up. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Awesome. Okay, so I'd love for you to think about what if I wasn't instructing, to really give yourself the space to be in your breath with each moment of this, okay? I will instruct, but tune me out. Focus on your breath first. Follow that inhale up when you're ready. And down. And lengthen. So your right foot starts, stepping back. Okay, we stepped back, so we're gonna keep going back. Downward dog. Yeah, and then here's your vinyasa. You guys know there's so many ways to do this. Just whatever way works for you is perfect. We stepped back with the right, so we're going to step forward with that same right leg. So it goes up to the sky and then through. Beautiful. And then forward fold. So we stepped forward, so we're going to keep going forward. Yeah, lengthen. And melt. Then the knees rise up. And then we do our second half, our left half. So we fold down. And that left foot initiates the second half. Beautiful. Downward dog. We stepped back, so we're going to keep going back. Vinyasa. And we step back with the left, so it's the left that's going to go forward. Beautifully, guys. We step forward, so we're going to keep going forward. And the knees rising all the way up. Yeah, hands to heart. So cool, you guys. Was that helpful? No comment? Do you want to do it one more time? Yes. Okay, let's do it one more time, and I'll see if I can cue a little bit less, and just see if you can think of which foot before I say, okay? Go ahead, inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And it's going to be that right foot initiating. We stepped back, so we're going back. Vinyasa. And this is the right half, so it's the right leg that's going to go forward. Beautiful, and we step forward, so we're going forward. And then we keep going to do the left half. So the left foot steps back. We stepped back, so we keep going back. The left leg stepped back, so that's the one that's going to go forward, left leg. We stepped forward, so we keep going forward. And eventually we come to stand with the hands at the heart. And just take a moment to feel that. Beautiful. Let's come into a squat. Widen your feet apart, maybe mat's distance, hips distance, turn the toes out. And then sink your hips, and maybe you're just coming part of the way down. Maybe your hips are coming all the way down. Maybe you're sitting on a block or wedging something like a towel or a couple of blocks underneath the heels. Wherever you are, make sure that your knees don't hurt. We're not going to be here for a long time, okay? So just grounding a little bit, sinking into the earth. Take a couple breaths. Pressing the elbows into the inner thighs and pulling the shoulder blades down. Okay, and then when you're ready, we'll release onto our bums and then onto our backs. So you can use your hands to help you to come down and lay on your back. Okay, so for pregnancy, again, a little bit of time on the back, I find especially in movement is fine as long as it feels fine. But if you'd rather lay back on a little piece of support or even stay seated, that's fine. Okay, let's engage the core. Okay, so nice neutral back. We're not moving the spine anywhere, just gathering everything into the midline. You can optionally lift your shoulder blades up off the earth by interlacing your fingers and behind your head and just gently lifting up. And then option one will just march. So as you inhale, you're lifting your right foot, and as you exhale, put it down. Inhale the left and put it back down. So that's a nice, safe core, good for pregnancy as long as it feels safe. This one I wouldn't do in pregnancy, but you could do it if you're comfortable. Reaching the legs up, straight up towards the sky, and we're taking more of a straight leg variation of the core, okay? So here I would exhale as the leg comes down. Just really finding that sense of drawing in and up with the core. Okay, so following your breath where you are, and just finding that variation of some core work that works for you. I find with this one, it really helps if I flare my toes apart, as if I was trying to feel the wind between them. Okay, and what that does is it helps me to activate my transverse abdominis, my deep core line. Okay, we want to be drawing that belly button in and up. And try to relax the jaw. A lot of us like to try to do things with the jaw, including me. Not the jaw that's working here. Really good. Let's try for 2 more each side if you can. And then when you're ready, relax, hug your knees in, maybe even take a happy baby. So you can take the soles of your feet to point up towards the sky, grab the ankles or the toes or whatever works for you, and you can rock a little bit from side to side. Okay, let's release the legs. You can give them a little shake. And then let's make our way back into downward facing dog. So if you're pregnant or have lower back stuff, please roll to the side, or if you just want to, roll to the side and then sort of climb your way back to downward dog. If you would rather hold the backs of your legs and rock and roll, and then you can either roll over your shins or swing around, whatever works for you. I'm gonna roll to my side personally. And then take your favorite variation of vinyasa. So that can be cat and cow for sure, or it can be the sequence with plank, or it could look like something else, just really whatever works for you to kind of rinse out. And for me, it's that stretch of the belly that we're looking for here. And we'll meet in downward dog. And then come to the top of the mat. So stepping the feet forward, or maybe hopping if you like. Not really going to be hopping if you're pregnant, probably. And then rise up to standing. I'm going to roll up personally because I like it, but I also find that rolling up helps me to feel my balance a bit more. So I want to think about leaning back into the heels, gathering the belly in, and almost sinking my feet as I roll up to standing. If rolling doesn't work for you, of course, come up any way that does. That shouldn't hurt your back. It should feel good. And then coming up just to a nice tall Tadasana. And see if you can think about your midline. So really drawing everything into the center and imagining that you're really connecting to that straight up and down line in terms of balance in your body. And then bring your hands together in front of your heart, or one of my favorites for balance is Hakini Mudra, with the fingertips pressing into each other and you're kind of pressing the elbows together a little bit. And then lean into your left foot and pick up your right knee. So this might just be here. Okay, this is perfect. You could also hold around the back of your right thigh. I'm going to keep my hands free personally. And you might try straightening the leg, either with your hands under the thigh or not. Press the fingertips really strongly into each other. If not, you're going to feel your psoas working there, okay, which we were just working in our core. So notice that. And then we're going to release the leg down and come into a brief little bit of a balance here. So we're going to send the leg back, slight bend in the left leg. Try to keep your hips square and tip your heart down towards the earth. Keep the spine neutral. So if anything, lift the chest up a little bit. You could stay here, come into airplane with the hands beside or behind you, or you could reach the arms forward, which is going to be a little bit more challenging. See where you want to be today. Inhale, and then we're going to step back into warrior one. So the foot lands, heel to the mat, toes turn out a little bit. Come out of the lunge a little bit so you can square your hips and draw your tailbone down. Press your back leg strongly into the earth and then bend into the knee. So I want you to actually be feeling a stretch to that muscle that we were just strengthening. This should feel good, okay? You can come back to that mudra, hug the elbows together, and just reach that up to the sky. This should enhance the stretch, not tighten your shoulders. So I want your shoulders to feel like they're nice and low and relaxed. You're not really trying to back bend overly here. It's more so just getting the stretch into the hip flexor. And if that allows for a little bit of an opening of the heart to the sky, you can do that, but I don't want you to lose that stretch there, okay? Okay, inhale, and then bring your hands to your hips, straighten your front leg, hug the elbows back, lift the heart, and then we're gonna fold down. So you can put your hands on blocks or on the floor here. If you're pregnant, depending on how big your belly is, you might need to have both hands on the inside of the leg, and that's fine. You can even widen your stance a bit if you want to. See what's comfortable for you, where you've got space. Draw the tailbone back and the left hip back as well. Get nice and long through your spine. And you're welcome to stay upright, or you can allow yourself to fold. Many of you know I like a little flow here. So if you want to inhale to lengthen and exhale to fold, enjoy catching that wave. Okay, so from here, let's take a little halfway lift. So just come up a little bit. If you've got blocks, you can bring them with you. You're gonna walk your hands or your blocks to the upper right corner of your mat or of the room and kind of melt your heart back towards your thighs. So you're just gonna feel that stretch in a bit of a different way here. Think of leaning your hips back to the left. Melting your heart, kind of like we did in Anahatasana before. Okay, inhale. And as you exhale, just gather yourself back through center, plant the palms, and step yourself back into downward facing dog. Optionally, take a vinyasa here. Take any variation you like. Okay, and when you come back to downward facing dog, bring your knees down and your elbows as well. So you can have your palms down or you could have your hands together. I'm going to have my hands together just for this first one here. And then you're going to come back up into a dolphin downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, lift the bum, and you might walk the feet in a little bit closer, just see how that feels. For now, I'd love for you to think of that Anahatasana, that same sort of feeling here where the heart is pressing back towards the thighs. Just relax the head. It shouldn't be on the ground, just hanging. You can bend your knees as much as you'd like and sort of push the floor forward with your forearms so that you can feel the heart melting back a bit. And then knees down, take a child's pose for a couple of breaths. You could have the same one that we started with the elbows bent, or just relax the arms wherever you like. Sometimes after a stretch like that, I like the hands beside the hips so the shoulders can just kind of drop. Beautiful. Okay, let's climb ourselves back up to downward facing dog as you're ready. Send your right leg up into the sky and you can open the hips if you like. So you'll notice we're doing the same internal structure of our sun salutation here. We stepped back with the right leg, so that's the same one that's going to come forward, yeah? So from here, you can bring your knee in towards your chest and optionally bring your shoulders over your wrists. You could also do this with your left knee down on the ground. Then we're going to open the knee to the right and then back up to the sky. So it's a big circle, okay? And then the knee comes in towards the chest. Shoulders might come forward if that feels safe. The knee opens to the right and then back up to the sky. We'll do that one more time. Remember, you could have your left knee down, open, send it up. And then we'll step it right forward and come into warrior two. So spin that back heel down, reach the arms up and open. And let's just take a few circles for the wrists. I'm just going to turn around so that I'm facing you here. Knee over the ankle, back hip is sort of heavy and soft. Let's reverse the circle of the wrists. And then settle. Coming back to your breath. Okay, and then bring your right elbow onto your thigh. And take your left hand to your hip, up to the sky, or bicep alongside the ear if you can. I like to actually press my elbow forward a little bit to deepen my hips. Ground that left heel into the mat and really puff up along the left side. So it's this lovely side stretch here. Okay, you're welcome to stay here or try a half bind with that left hand. So you're turning the thumb down and wrapping it around your lower back, holding the shoulder back a bit. You can stay there, or maybe you're going to bring the hand down a little bit lower, coming into more of a hip opening variation of side angle pose. Keep hugging the shoulder blades onto the back, pressing the hips a little bit forward, but pulling the heart towards the front of the mat. Okay, some of you might even bind your arms around your thigh. I think not for me today, but you could if you're feeling like you've got that strength. And obviously flexibility is involved there too. Beautiful, inhale. And then let's gently release, unbind whatever it is you're doing here. Bring that back knee down to the mat. Take your left hand nice and wide, fingertips or palm is perfect, and open up into a little bit of a twist here. Right arm rises to the sky. Okay, and then inhale and we'll come into Ardha Hanumanasana. So you're gonna release the right hand down, straighten the front leg, I'm untucking my back toes and then flexing the front foot. You might need to adjust it a little bit. The back hip should be right over top of the knee. Okay, we can do that little flow here if you'd like as well, lifting the heart on the inhale and melting as you exhale. Awesome. Okay, let's bend into the front leg. Walk the fingertips forward, pick up the back knee, and then come just briefly into a little L stand, a little L balance. Hug those inner thighs, lift the heel to the sky, and you might lighten up one or both hands to the ankle, looking at the floor. Not too long there. Let's release the feet and the hands to the mat. So just a quick hello to that pose. Halfway lift and melt. And again, you can roll up if that feels right for you. So taking your time, and again, imagining your feet kind of sinking into the earth. So this is a bit of an opportunity to get a little bit grounded. Little bit of a reset here. Maybe you need a bit of fidgeting. Maybe you can be in stillness. Take a moment to find your sense of midline, which for me, I always feel like I just need to draw it back a little bit more into my body, into the back body. You can find that mudra, pressing the fingertips into each other, hugging the elbows a little bit. Lean into your right foot. Make sure you've got a little bit of a bend in your right leg. So it's an invisible bend. It's not a huge one. You just don't want to be locking, and you could bend a little bit more to kind of find your balance. And then see if you can lift up your left knee. You might be holding it, or you might be letting it be free. You might keep it bent, or you might try straightening it, which is, let me tell you, not comfortable for anybody. Try to keep your spine nice and neutral. Inhale, and then take that leg below you, keeping it kind of hugged in through the core, and we're coming into a little bit of a warrior 3 is this one, which definitely one of my challenge poses for sure. Okay, so you can keep your hands here, you can reach them back. Reaching them forward is going to add more weight for your lower back, so you want to really engage your core, and if there's any pain there, skip that one. Okay, hips stay square, back foot is really nice and active. And I'm more interested in your back being neutral than in how deep down you're going. Okay, so you can keep your heart up kind of high and be on more of a diagonal, but really think about having that nice neutral spine going. That looks great, everybody. Inhale, and then step back into warrior 1, please. Yeah, good. Okay, so come out of it a bit. Square your hips, draw your tailbone down, and really press your back heel into the mat. Ideally, your glute actually engages here. Okay, keep that. And then as you bend into your front leg, I'm hoping that you'll feel the stretch kind of here in the thigh, front of the thigh. Okay, you can come back to that mudra if it's working for you and reach it up to the sky. And again, this should enhance the stretch. So I don't want it to be like, oh, scrunching your shoulders up like crazy. You don't need to straighten your arms at all. Sort of soft through the shoulders. You could lift the heart a little bit, but really make sure that that tailbone is anchoring down so that you do get that lovely hip flexor stretch, which is my intention here. It's not always the intention of warrior 1, but for me, it usually is. It's usually what I want from warrior 1. Okay, one more inhale. And then let's release the hands to the hips, straighten your front leg. Hug the elbows back, lift your heart, and fold forward. Again, you're welcome to use your blocks here if that's helpful for you, or just fingertips on the ground. Start in a little halfway lift, draw your right hip back, and then you can stay there, you can fold, or you can flow. So on the inhale, you would lift your heart a little bit, and on the exhale, you would just melt into it a little bit more. So that's optional. Just if you're feeling like flowing is where you're at today, that's great. If you're feeling like stillness is working better for you, both are good. They're just a little bit different, a little bit of a different mood. Some bodies really benefit from gently moving in and out of a shape, especially if your body tends to be a little activated or a little bit stressed. I find the flow is so soothing, but it depends on the person, of course. Okay, so from here, let's take that little halfway lift shape and walk the hands over to the left corner of the mat or the left corner of the room. So the fingertips are coming forward, the heart is melting back, and you're working your weight a little to the right and sort of back into the hips. So there's not a lot of weight on your arms. You're not really weight bearing. They're just there to help you traction the spine a little bit. And you might feel this stretch in a bit of a different way, maybe a little more to the outside of the leg, maybe a little bit more into the lower back. Just differently in the hamstrings, just noticing. Awesome, and then gently climbing back and step into your downward facing dog, and then take your vinyasa if you would like to take your vinyasa, skip it if you would prefer to skip it. Okay, so we stepped back with the left foot, so which foot's gonna go forward? If I could hear you, you'd be saying the left, right? So we're gonna take that left leg up to the sky. Your right knee could be on the down, on the floor for sure. Okay, on the exhale, bring your knee in. Shoulders might come over the wrists. Knee opens to the left and then back up to the sky, and we do 3 of those. Okay, take your time. Knee draws in. There's core, moves open to the side. There's left butt, outer butt. Stabilizers, one more time. Yeah, and then that left foot will step through into warrior 2. Back heel spins down, reach open. So your knee is over your ankle, back hip is kind of heavy. Okay, so sometimes you'll see people doing warrior 2 with super straight arms. That's not wrong. I just find for myself, it tenses me a bit when I do that. I actually like the palms up and the elbows a bit bent. And if you do that, you might just notice that your shoulders drop a little bit. Like, who doesn't need these muscles to relax a bit? So if that feels right for you, why not do it this way? Okay, you can still find strength in your core with softness on the outside. Okay, and then let's bring the left elbow to the thigh, taking the right bicep alongside the ear or up to the sky or hand on hip, whatever works for you is great. And I find I'm really working on pressing that back heel into the mat, drawing the front ribs in a little bit and kind of puffing up along that right side. If I press my elbow down and a bit forward, it actually helps me deepen into the lunge aspect of this pose. You can certainly stay here, or you could try a half bind, turning the thumb down and reaching your hand around behind your back, sort of seeking for the hip crease. And you could stay there or bring the hand down on the inside of the leg. So ideally you're doing the same thing on the first side that you did, or sorry, on this side that you did on the first side. But, you know, every day we've got different things going on. So we want to generally treat our bodies as symmetrically as we can, though our bodies are not symmetrical. There's a bind there maybe for some of you, not for me today. Okay, inhale, and then let's gently unwind ourselves. Bring the hands down, back knee also down. Take that right hand nice and wide, palm or fingertips is just fine. Reach the left arm open. Inhale, and then we'll straighten that front leg, bringing the hands down, untucking the back toes, probably just inching my foot a little bit more forward so that my back hip stays over my knee. And I have, again, just a little bit of a bend in this knee. It could be more or less. It does not have to be perfectly straight, shouldn't be locked. Okay, and as before, you can stay in relative stillness with a long spine, a folded spine, or you can work with that flow again, lengthening on your inhale and gently melting. Okay, and then from here, let's look forward. Bend into your front leg. Tuck those back toes under. And we're going to lift it up any amount. We're not going to be here too long. I know that your hips are probably getting tired. So squaring the hips, leg to the sky, and some of you might explore a little balance here, really thinking about hugging the inner thighs together. That's part of the key of the balance. Looking at the floor. That side's a bit harder for me today. And then down, both feet to the earth. Lengthen and melt. Okay, and let's just stay in the forward fold for a moment. You might want to give your head a little shake. You might want to sway from side to side, just kind of shaking off the work that we've done so far. So what I'd love to do now is play with headstand a little bit. I know not all of you are going to want to do headstand, and that's completely okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of other options. If you have a wall, you can step your feet to the right and the left of your mat, pick up your mat to stand up and bring your mat to a wall. If you don't have a wall, you can just step back on your mat and bring down your knees, okay? So option one is headstand, which we'll talk about in a second. Option two is headless headstand, which is nice if you don't have a wall and if you want to just kind of work into the prep of it. So it's basically the same shape, but you'd be looking down instead of having your head on the ground, and you're doing a lot of the same prep. But I don't want you to kick anywhere in headstand ideally, but especially if you don't have a wall, you can just work with lifting a leg at a time. You don't have to actually do the balance, okay? Option three is legs up the wall, which is a nice restorative inversion. So it has a lot of the benefits of the inversion without being something like a headstand, okay? Secret option for anything that works for you here is just fine, okay? So trust your body, trust what you need to do. Otherwise, come with me. So I'm going to teach the prep to headstand if you have a wall or not, and then those of you that have a wall will just go a little bit further, okay? So just before we go over there, here's the mudra that I like to work with. There are a few that you can do for headstand, but I find this one works best for me. So fingers are loosely interlaced and the bottom pinky is just tucked under. So you've got a little flat line there. Okay, so you're holding your hands with some space between them, and then the head goes just between the wrists here. So you're kind of holding with the bottoms of your forearms, not your hands. And if you're squeezed together like this, you can do it that way, but I find I get more purchase on the ground with this little bit of an open space with the hands, okay? It's top of your head, like where you would balance books if you were working on your posture. But as you get more familiar with it, that might change a little bit. I found for me, it's actually just 3 fingers from my hairline. Well, 4 fingers from my hairline. It's right there. There's sort of a hard spot right there for me that allows the neck to be neutral. You want to have that neutral curve in your neck. So in headstand, really, it's exactly the same as standing with your arms like this, really tall, except you're upside down. So it's very straight up and down pose, okay? We can do the prep with or without the head on the floor. If you don't want any pressure on your neck today, that's fine. Headless headstand, it's the same exact mudra, same shape, but you're just looking down instead of having weight on your head, okay? So let's try it. So on your knees and your elbows, and for headstand, you can be nice and close to the wall. I wouldn't be touching it, but you can be pretty close. So we've got that mudra there. Head is on or off the ground. Maybe I'll take this sweater off. And then you're going to tuck your toes under and come into downward dog. Quick tip, the closer your feet are to your face, the easier this is going to be. Okay. So think about pressing into your elbows, and again, finding that spot on the crown of your head where you feel like your neck is neutral and you can kind of put a little bit of pressure. One leg might lift up. Think hugging the inner thighs. We did a lot of this work today. Pressing into the elbows to push up. Okay. If you get up, squeeze the legs together. If you're on the wall, I find it helpful to have one knee bent and try to find that plumb line with the two knees together, squeezing them like I had a loonie in between there, and then working my legs towards straight. Feet can be flexed or not, just active, okay? And using your whole forearm to support you. Yeah? So a little tip about headstand, you don't want to kick up because we don't want to jar the neck, but also if you don't use your core to get up, there's nothing that's going to be able to hold you there. So it's really a question of getting your feet as close to your face as you can, lifting that leg up, and then pushing into the elbows to counterweight your legs towards the wall. Another little tip of it is to think about the leg that's going up, rather than sort of piking straight up. I'll see if I can show this on my second side. Move away a little bit. Because if you just think about straight up, you get stuck. You want to think about that top leg going actually behind you a little bit, and then coming to neutral. So if you can remember that there's some space behind your body, you're going to have an easier time finding that midline and going up. Okay, and if you're up in headstand, try to stay for 5 breaths. You can work up to 20. And then child's pose. So if you're in legs up the wall, please relax. And if you're coming out of headstand in its variations, child's pose. If you're somewhere else that you want to be, you're great, hang out. Okay, and if you're in child's pose, maybe you're just rolling your head a little bit from side to side. Okay, so if you've been in legs up the wall, I'd love for you to stay right there. Okay, if you've been in child's pose, I'll invite you to come and sit and roll your shoulders onto your back. Okay, if you're in legs up the wall, you can just roll your head really lazily from side to side. If you're seated, you can drop your chin in and just take a nice little roll of your head from side to side, just to release any residual tension in your neck. Took me a long time to get comfortable in headstand, but it's really one of the poses that I actually find it quite grounding now, quite soothing to my system. Not when I was first learning it, but now. A lot of yoga poses are like that. When you're first learning them, they're not that relaxing, but then once you get comfortable in them, they can really have some gifts to give you. Okay, so if you've been rolling your head in a seat, just make sure you're even on the two sides, bring your chin down, gently roll up, and then we're gonna all meet laying on our backs. So if you're in legs up the wall, you can stay as you are, though you may want to move a little bit away from the wall just to give yourself some space. We're gonna do a bit of hip opening here. So Cindy, you kind of know your variations that you like to do in terms of hip openers, but I wonder if it would be interesting for you, and actually, why don't we just all try this and see how it feels, because it's actually a hip opener and a twist at the same time. So you can bring your feet together and then cross your left leg over top of your right one, and then you're going to bring your legs to the left. Okay, so this is a nice way of kind of getting a bit of a twist and an opening into the outer hip. So just checking that out. I'm not sure if that will be accessible for you, Cindy, but if it feels good, it's good to have more in your toolbox. You could also do this with your knees a little farther apart.
Is your left knee on top?
My left knee is on top and I'm going to the left. So with eagle twist, we would go to the right, but this is a little bit of a different one. It's a bit like the windshield wiper twist, but narrower. Okay, and then we'll gently release that and just come to the second side. Take your time, of course, if you're just sort of figuring it out. So I'm just gonna cross my right leg over my left and then bring the knees to the right. So the right leg is on top and I'm going to the right. Beautiful. Okay, so if that works for you, let's all come back up to center. And if you like that one, you can do that again. Or we'll take thread the needle. So I'm going to take my left ankle to my right thigh now, and I'm going to gather that in. There are lots of ways to open the hips. Lots of ways. It's a lot of the time, it's just a question of finding the way that works for us. Okay, and you can hang out here in stillness, or you might like a little bit of a rock from side to side. Do keep your left foot flexed so that your knee stays neutral. Specifically, you might notice that when you move the legs a little bit to the right, you're going to feel the stretch a bit differently, maybe a little deeper. Okay, and then let's gently release that. You can give your legs a little shake or a little windshield wiper. And then let's take the right ankle onto the left thigh and take thread the needle on the second side. So feet are flexed. It's more important to flex the right foot, but when we flex both, that just tends to keep everything really nice and integrated. And again, you could rock side to side, or you might just be exploring, if I lean my legs a little bit to the left, what happens? I find that sometimes that can get into the piriformis a little bit more, which is sometimes the muscle that is the culprit of sciatica, not all the time. Beautiful, and then let's gently release that. You can give the legs a little shake or a little windshield wiper. And then I'm going to give you one of two options. So shoulder stand goes really well with headstand because it kind of lengthens the neck. But if you do have some neck issues, you may not want to take shoulder stand. Bridge has pretty much the same benefits, but without as much pressure on the neck. So for bridge, you've got your feet on the floor. You can start with the little robot arms, just pressing into the feet, lifting the bum. You can have the hands down or interlace them. Just press the hips up. Okay, a little bit of a different mood for the two poses. Shoulder stand, or you could do just legs elevated, maybe with a little block underneath them. You actually start in the same sort of shape with the elbows beside the ribs, but you swing the legs towards you, catch your lower back with your hands, and climb the hands up. Don't look around. If you're in shoulder stand, keep the neck neutral, but the pressure should really be on the upper back and arms, not on the actual neck itself. Okay, so don't overly flatten your neck to the ground. And just taking a few breaths in your pose of choice. And if you've been in shoulder stand and you'd like to take a plow, you can bring the legs over your head. Keeping the hands on the lower back, unless you're really comfortable in this pose and you know the other variations. My favorite thought about plow is that it's a good one for removing poisons from the body. And springtime is a good time to do that. Okay, and then gently releasing down from your shape. You could take soles of the feet together, knees open wide, just kind of softening here. And if you've got a last pose in you, fish is a lovely counter pose to shoulder stand. So this is optional, just if it feels right for you. You can take your hands underneath your body. So you're sitting on them, palms down. Straighten the legs, press the elbows into the mat, lift the chest and just widen the throat. Pressing the elbows down and apart. Again, very little weight on the head. It's mostly the elbows, sorry. And I love a lion's breath in fish. So you inhale through your nose, and then you stick your tongue out and you roar as you exhale. Good for releasing those poisons. When you're ready, sliding to the back of your head, gently releasing your arms. And for me, that's like shoulder shavasana, ready to go, just flopping out, taking your rest. If there is anything left that you need to close your practice, feel free to do that. If you need to sort of put your layers on and adjust for shavasana, feel free. And if you just want to flop out and you're there already, please do that. Take a moment to notice how you're feeling. If you have the time and you'd like to stay in your shavasana for longer, please feel welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can begin to deepen your breath again. And bring some small movements into your toes and fingers. Maybe rock your head. And reach your arms up and stretch out long through your toes. And draw in the knees. And roll over to one side. And gently rise up to a seat, taking your hands wherever works for you. So onto your heart, um, together, onto your belly, where you like. And then gently bow your mind to your hands, taking a moment to thank yourself for showing up to your practice, to honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that comes before us, to honor and acknowledge the sacredness of the land that we practice on. Thank you for sharing that practice with me.